This week was a week filled with much emotion, much hope, and at the same time, we're somewhat distraught by what's happening in the world. On one hand, we just lived an election that turned in one instant and happened the way it happened. It turned for the better. And on the other hand, we have a pogrom going on in Amsterdam. How do we handle all this? Where do we go from here? And what is the connection to this week's Torah portion? This week, at the age of 75 years old, Avraham Avinu is addressed by God for the first time. And God tells him, Vayomer Hashem el Avraham. And God tells Avraham, Lech lecha, go. Where? Lecha, to you. Me'artzecha, from your land. Mimoladtecha, from your place of birth. Umibet avicha, and from the house of your father. Where? Well, who knows? El haaretz asher areka, to a land which I am going to show you. So it's very interesting. What is this whole rhetoric? Why doesn't the Torah tell us about what happened to Abraham before he turned 75? Why doesn't the Torah tell us that he was already tested with multiple tests? One of them being that Nimrod, which thought he was God, and made everybody rebel against God and accept him as a God. Nimrod told him, you're spreading God's name. You're rebelling against me. Either you accept me as a God, or you accept God as a God. If God is your God, and I'm not your God, then for sure, I'm going to throw you in a furnace. And indeed, what happened is that Avraham Avinu was thrown in the furnace of Kasdim. But the Torah does not recount that. You have to go into the commentaries of what the Chumash tells you, the commentaries of oral law, in order to find out this heroic act of Abraham to go and be thrown in the furnace of Kasdim for his belief in one God. Why? And why not even tell him where he's going? Lech lecha, go to yourself, go. It's interesting, because on one hand, he's telling him, God is telling Abraham, I want you to leave. Why do I want you to leave? I want you to leave your land, your birthplace, the house of your father. But he doesn't tell it that way. He uses another expression. He says, Lech lecha, go to yourself. From where? He doesn't say leave. He says, from this, you're going to go to this. What is happening exactly? What can we learn in our personal lives, on our daily lives, in that address? So to start, let me start with a story. One day, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Shalom Dov Ber, was reviewing the parasha. And as he was reading, Vayomer Hashem el Avram lech lecha, he told him, God spoke to Avram and said, go. At that moment, the Rebbe Rashab started tearing. He started crying. His son explains that there was a dimension of ta'anug, of pleasure that he experienced while reading this verse. I once heard from Rabbi Manis Friedman something very, very nice, a beautiful idea on this concept. You know, imagine that the Lubavitcher Rebbe himself would give you a call at home and you would answer the phone and says, who is this? This is the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And you would recount the story to someone. And at that moment, that someone is asking, what did he tell you? What did he tell you? They're missing the point. The Grand Rebbe called me. That's extraordinary in itself. Who cares what he said? That's already secondary. What's important is that I was able to have a connection to such a great tzaddik. This, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, is what happened to the Rebbe Rashab. He is reading and he says, Vayomer Hashem el Avraham. God spoke to Avraham. That in itself is a tremendous delight. A human physical being of flesh and blood has a connection with the infinity of God who created heaven and earth. That in itself is something to kvel, to be excited about. The beginning of the relationship of every Jew with God is Lech Lecha. Start walking. Start progressing. Get out of yourself. Get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your habits. Get out of preconceived knowledge and understanding. But God does not say to Abraham, get out of this. He says, go to this. I want you to understand the difference. But before we introduce the difference, let's explore what exactly was told to him. Leave your birthplace, your father's home, and your land. Maimonides explains that there are different habits that we have, and God entrusts us to be able to transform our habits and use these habits, use these different character traits for something positive, for something holy. But how do we do that? How do we transform human nature? So Maimonides says there are three types of human nature. Mimolatecha, where you're born. I have 8 kids, Baruch Hashem, and each one is different. I have one which is creative, the other one which likes to read, the other one that's organized. Well, that one I'm still looking for. And each one has an inherent nature. Everyone is different. Every single one of us is born with his nature, with his soul, with his way of being. There are no two people which are the same. Our sages teach us the same way. We don't look alike. We don't think alike. Then there's what we learn from our parents. That's what's called in psychology and imagotherapy something like the interject. We are what's called an interject. Till a certain age, what we see in our parents, the way we see the reactions till 2, 3 years old, we absorb it in our brain. And it sticks there. When Daddy came home upset because he had a problem at work, and he slammed the door, and at that moment, Mommy rolled her eyes, or whatever it is. All these things stick in our head, and they're inscribed in our head, and we naturally, the way we learn how to later become a husband or a wife is by seeing the relationship we saw with our parents and the different response mechanism to the stresses of life. And then there is your land. Leave your land. Leave what? What is your land? Society. Society is already what you learn in school, from your friends. from this. But God doesn't address himself to Abraham, the son of an idol worshiper, and tell him, I really want you to work on the past. I want you to dwell on the fact that you're born this way and what you did in your father's house and what you did in your land, and I want you to leave this. It reminds me of these little booklets when I was 16 or 17 years old, learning in yeshiva in Israel. There were these gentlemen at the corner of the streets, these religious men, giving little booklets to young men. You would open the booklet, and it would say in the booklet, my son, my good one, don't worry about this and this thing, or this and this sin of the youth that you've done. Don't think about it. What are you telling me? You're telling me to think about what I should not think about, or not think about what I should think. What are you telling me? It's like, put your head in the mud and bluff yourself that you're actually not thinking about it. That's not the way to go. You're never getting out of there. If I told everybody right now, close your eyes and don't think of the color red, everybody is going to think of the color red. That's not what God tells him. God is telling him, don't look in the rear view mirror. Lech lecha. I want you to reach a point. What point do I want you to reach? Lecha, your essence. Ah, my essence. Okay. But I have a past. Yes. As you are more focused on reaching your essence, you will leave your nature. You will leave what you experienced in the home that's negative. You will leave the preconceived ideas of society and the different limiting beliefs that you grew up with. And then you're really going to reach your essence. But the secret is in the first word, lech. You have to start walking. It says in the verse, ve'ani natati lachem mehalchim ben ha'omdim ha'el. I will make you people that walk amongst those who stand. What does that mean? People that walk amongst those who stand. The angels are in a state that the way they were created, that's the way they're going to be all their life. Man has the power to walk. What does it mean to walk? One of the midrashim, one of the commentaries of the Torah teaches us that Avraham Avinu one day had to replace his father in his store. His father used to own idols.com, right? I imagine that's what would happen today. He used to own a store of idols. And he told him, Avraham, I'm going on a business trip. You keep the store. What did Avraham do? He took a baseball bat or some stick and broke all the idols of his father, put the stick in the biggest idol, and when his father came back, he said, what happened? What happened? He said, I don't know, they didn't want to eat, they didn't want to listen to the big idol, so he broke them to pieces. His father looks at him and says, come on, you're making fun of me? They don't see, they don't walk, they don't talk, they don't understand anything. How could that be? He says, Daddy, if they don't speak, they don't see, they don't talk, they don't listen, so why do you worship them? Why do you worship something which is not evolving, something which is not growing, something which is not transforming itself? I believe that behind this story, there's another lesson. There's a lesson of what Avraham Avinu wanted to bring to the world and what is inherent to every single Jew. Have you ever met a Jew that is satisfied? I personally have not. However much you have, you want more. Whatever area of life it is. So what happens? The whole concept of an idol is a statue. Today they call it a status. A statue. Statue doesn't move. It's perfect. It's muscled. Perfect proportions in the body. Nothing moves. Picture perfect. You're not going anywhere with picture perfect. You're not. Avraham Avinu says, no, this is not the purpose why God put us in the world. If God put us in the world, He already has angels which are picture perfect. Let me show the world where it needs to go. And He takes a bat and He starts breaking these idols. He says, statues, statuses, it's not for us. We are different. We need to grow. We need to evolve. But yesterday I did this and this sin, and the day before, and in my youth I was an idol worshiper. I was worshiping the casino. I was worshiping some not kosher websites. I was worshiping gaming. So what? You have the power to change today. My friends, this week I had an incredible meeting with a young man. He blew me away. He doesn't know how much he blew me away. A few months ago, over 6 months ago, I told him to start keeping kosher. He was going through some issues, addicted to pot and other things. And he came and said, Rabbi, I want to tell you that from the day you told me, I've been keeping kosher and I don't do pot anymore. Wow. You think that your past experiences are destroying your life today? No. They're building your life today. Ve'Avraham zaken ba bayamim, ve'Hashem berach et Avraham bakol. The Torah will tell us about Avraham when he passes away at the age of 175. In the name of the Zohar, Avraham Avinu walked in his days. He never missed one day of service to God. Really? How could you say that? The Rebbe asks. Only at 75 God told him to go. Only at 99 did he do a bris. How could you say, and when he was a child, he was looking for God. Some say at the age of 3 he started, at the age of 40 or 48. How could you say his life was complete? Because what brought Avraham Avinu to know God and to recognize God with such certainty, with such self-confidence and clarity? It's the fact that he stumbled. It's the fact that he learned not only who is God, what is good, but what is not good. What is not God. What is not godly. More to say. Better. The power of Avraham. Lech lecha. And what's interesting is that as we look through the Torah, we're going to find that there's another time, the 10th test, that God is going to test Avraham with. He's going to tell him again, Lech lecha. Vayomer Hashem el Avraham. Vayomer Avraham. Avraham. What do you answer? What do you answer when God calls you? He says the magical word that we all need to learn in order to be able to make it in this dark galut till Mashiach reveals himself. The magical word, my friends, is Hineni. Here I am. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe says something incredible. In the Hallel that we recite during Rosh Chodesh as well, during the holidays, we say the word Anna. Anna Hashem Oshiana, Anna Hashem Atzlichana. Anna, please, God, save us. Please, God, give us success. But he says there's another Anna. That Anna is written Aleph Nun Aleph. In the Hallel, there's another Anna spelled Aleph Nun Hey. Anna Hashem Ki Ani Avdecha. Sure you know the song. Anna Hashem Ki Ani Avdecha. Anna Hashem. Where, God? Ki ani avdecha. Because I am your servant. What does that mean? Where? God. Ana Hashem. With a hey. Tell me what you want, what you need. I'm here for you. I'm ready to go. How high should I jump? Ana Hashem. Ki ani avdecha. I am your servant. Just tell me. I want to be your servant. I want to have that relationship with you. And I will do it at all costs, against all odds. That's the Ana Hashem with a hey. That's the great word, Hineni. Hineni Hashem, I am here. I am present. I am ready. And therefore, Avraham is asked to go. Go. This is the way you're going to reach your essence. By going out of your nature. But really, this is the second time Avraham is going to be told, Lech Lecha. The first time when he leaves the land of his father. The second time when he has to bring his son to be sacrificed at Mount Moriah, where the temple, where the Bet HaMikdash will be built and where the altar will be built. But why? God, really? Avraham Avinu already was ready to be thrown in a furnace of fire for you? That wasn't enough? Only when he takes his son and brings him to the altar, then you say, Atayadati, now I know, Ki erelo ki mata, that you're a God-fearing man. What? What are you talking about? I spent my whole life giving my life for you. What happened over here? First of all, why is Lech Lecha so important? And the event of Ur Kasdim, the event of the fact that Avraham was thrown in a furnace of fire, not mentioned. Because till Avraham is commanded to do something, it's his own personal belief. It's within the human realm. It's within the philosophy, as holy and as lofty as a philosophy can be. If it's not commanded by God, it stays within the parameters of a human action. That's number one. And therefore, Lech Lecha is the beginning of the journey. The beginning of the journey is when God asks you to do something and you are ready to subjugate yourself and to say Hineni. Number two, when Avraham Avinu, through himself, was ready to be in the furnace of fire for the sake of God, was that in his nature or was that above his nature? The nature of Avraham is that he wanted to spread God's name. What would have happened if he would have died for the sake of God? He would have accomplished his nature. When do I know you are really my servant? You're really a God-fearing man. When you're ready to go completely against your nature. There's no personal interest vested in what you're doing. There's no ulterior motives. You're going against your natural instinct. And that's what he did. Taking your son, which you love, for whom you waited for so long. And God says, go, sacrifice him. And you just wake up early in the morning. You're so enthusiastic. We say in the Pismon of Et Sharei Ratzon on Rosh Hashanah, in the Sephardic community, Ayin b'mar bocha v'lev sameach. On one hand, he's tearing, but his heart is happy that he's doing the will of God. He says, now I know that you're real. And why did he tell him to go all the way to Mount Moriah? To the place where the altar would be in the future when the temple would be built. Because it says that this is the same place that Adam HaRishon, the first man, was created. Man was created from the place of his atonement. Adam makom kaparato nivra. He was created from the earth, which is at that place of the altar. This is the same altar which Noach gave a sacrifice, the same altar that Cain and Hevel offered their sacrifice. The Ari HaKadosh says that Adam HaRishon was a general soul that contained all the souls that would be for all generations. God tells them, at the beginning I didn't tell you where you were going. I told you, go to the land which I'm going to show you. You're ready, you started walking. You didn't know. At the end I directed you, I showed you where to go. Now I'm telling you where to go. I want you to go in the place where Adam was created. I want you to discover the root of your soul within Adam, the first man. And there you're going to discover your essence. When does one discover his essence? The moment that he is challenged. This past week, we saw the miracle of resilience and determination. A man which was supposed to be dead twice, indicted how many times I don't know, bad-mouthed, everybody's going against him. Avraham Avinu too, everyone went against him. But he continued, not for his sake, for the sake of morality, for the sake of America. And at the end he succeeded. But he had such a failure last time. Was the election stolen or not? That doesn't matter. For the first 4 years of his terms, they just bashed him and bashed him and bashed him. But he stood stronger and stronger. You could have said, you know what, it's time to give up. If I had my personal interest, then yes, I would say give up. But because he endured it, now the House, the Senate, everything, it's another level, it's another dimension. What we see happening in the world is a reflection of what we need to prepare ourselves for. We need to prepare ourselves for a world where negativity will destroy itself. That's what the Zohar teaches us. The Zohar teaches us that in order to be able to cut down a tree, you need an axe that has a handle made of wood that comes from a tree. The emptiness that we've seen and the nonsense that's been spread through the media for all these years, these past years, destroyed itself, showed its true face, showed its emptiness. People are looking for meaning. They're looking for justice. They're looking for God. They're looking for God inside of themselves. And therefore, it's time for us to learn the lesson. The lesson is that if in Amsterdam, they tried to kill us with a pogrom, just like we saw from October 7th to today, the transformation from one extreme to another, of darkness coming to a level of more power, more light of Hashem, more clarity, whether it's in the government, whether it's in the world. This extraordinary path we are going on is a path in which things are going to become clear. So now is the time, my friends, as Mashiach is coming very soon, and the light of Hashem is becoming more and more obvious, whether it's in the way that He protects us in the land of Israel, whether it's the way that those who are looking for justice are protected. It's time for us to elevate our sense of morality, but not based on our understanding, our human limitations, but rather through the study of Torah, through influencing others, through the doing of mitzvot, through looking in what God's architectural plan of the world is, which is the Torah. Istakel be'oraita ubara alma. God looked in the Torah and created the world, and align ourselves. Once we are aligned with Torah, we're aligned with God, we're aligned with ourselves, then automatically all the different limiting beliefs that we are born with, all the statues that wanted to label us and make us into something which is static, that cannot grow and evolve, all this is completely shattered and broken. It's time for every single one of you to become what you really deserve to become. A prayer for our soldiers. Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham, Yitzhak, v'Yaakov, u'yevarech hayaleh tzva hagana leYisrael ha'omdim al mishmar Aretzenu ve'are Elokeinu migavol halevanon ve'ad midbar Mitzrayim min hayam hagadol ad levo ha'arava Bayabasham Uva'avir Ba'avir Uva'ayam Uyevarech Hayaleh Tzva Hagana leYisrael. Sometimes I try to go to higher notes than I can. I guess it's the desire of the Jew to get out of himself. God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy Shabbos. Enjoy the Shabbat. Take the time to connect. Connect to yourselves. Connect to God. Connect to Torah. Connect to your tefillah. Make it happen. Love you all. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. Thank you.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.